Hello, how you doing? I'm back in Philly. I just got back late last night, and have to leave again in the morning on a new National Geographic show. And yeah, so I've been real busy these past few months, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I don't really want to sit around. I like to keep myself with a steady flow of work coming in. Part of the thing about CKY is, to me, is that, when I look around and I talk to other filmmakers and other artists, whether they're a sculptor, painter, author, poet, everybody, and even non-artists, everyone wants to make a mark in this world. They want to have the feeling that they're striving for something important that might change people's way of thinking just a little bit. Everyone kind of wants to make a mark on humanity. And I was blessed enough to do that early with something that I was just doing for fun, and it was CKY.
I heard that. I think you just summed up World of Rock's mission statement. That's what we're doing, man. I mean, World of Rock is I don't know if I gave you any background info, but we're actually a music school based in Summit, New Jersey. We got a little music school going on. We have a record label as a little sister project of that. So that's what this podcast is for. But the thing is, and I've said this on our first episode, this is going to be for episode 2. Our first episode, I made sure that everybody listening knows that without CKY and a few other unrelated entities, World of Rock would not exist. And there was a mission that came with CKY, and it was very organic and honest, and I hope to continue that sort of goal with World of Rock, and that's to do good music justice and show other people there's another way. You don't have to listen to the radio if you don't like it. You don't have to watch TV shows that you don't like. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and also with part of your mission, to educate and to keep with the tradition that you've set forth. You also have a rare opportunity, which is your label, so that there's an outlet for the students.
Exactly. So it kind of works.
And what better training than hands-on, real-world grassroots? I mean, and that's the way. To me, some of the best music out there has started. Even with the, going back from the punk rock that I loved as a teenager, to indie rock, and even CKY the band. I mean, if people, you hear oftentimes fans say a band has sold out, which is something that a band like CKY never has and never will. It's not in their heart. It's not in their ethos. It's not in their morals. They couldn't let that happen even if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. That mission, if you had to sum it up, if you had to combine all of the art forms that converged into the CKY world, I mean, the CKY music videos were art in themselves. The music, obviously, but the whole thing was sort of, it wasn't presented, it was presented organically in the sense that in order to do things or to see results, you just have to do it. You have to go in with it. You have to go into it balls to the wall. There's no such thing as a record label school. There's no such thing as a band school. You know what I mean? I mean, for filmmaking, I mean, yeah, you can go to filmmaking school, but that was
I look at it like this. You can teach people art. You can educate them in art, but you cannot educate someone to be an artist. To live that lifestyle comes from a drive that is tantamount to an artist's lifestyle. An artist will put their artwork before they put their basic needs. Maslow was a psychologist who created a hierarchy of needs. The first one is air, then water, food, sleep, clothing, shelter. Art is right up there with those basic needs to exist.
Mm-hmm.
The artist puts his art first. It's usually before relationships. It's before owning a car. A lot of times, it's before paying rent. back in the early days of CKY, I lived in a teeny little apartment in a horrible neighborhood in South Philly. Now it's, quote, gentrified. Now it's a little bit nicer, but, you know, it was a crack alley. And, you know, I was paying $158.33 with my split of the rent.
Oh my God.
And we lived in this teeny little 800-foot house with two other guys, and they were artists. And we drove our, you know, surrounding myself with other artists forced me to be at my best at all times, and to be true to my goals and desires and what it is I wanted to accomplish in this world.
You know, you hit that spot on, because it comes before owning a car. For me, I'm 26 and I'm still living at home, but I'm still pumping out my brand of art every day, at the great risk of everything else. For a true artist.
You know, you're saying it's a risk, and you're wrong. You're not risking it, because what you're doing, you know, the one thing I love to do, I'm not what you call a hoity-toity kind of guy. I'm not a high, you know, social elite type of guy. I don't like to go to big parties with a bunch of rich people. I don't care about fast, expensive cars. You know, McMansion houses, that kind of a thing. It's not in my blood. I'm a Philly guy. You know, Philly born, Philly raised. Someday I'll be Philly dead. And you know, one of the things that will bother you if you're not true to yourself is that you didn't try. I know so many people who have made great accomplishments in the business world and the professional world, and done everything what society has always told them is the right way to do it. And you know what? They get to be 40, their late 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and they realize that they are not happy because they did not try to achieve in self-expression.
Do you ever feel like there's no trying too hard, though? I mean, what would be, obviously, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but as you look back, it might be easier to say, oh, you know what, at least I tried. I know with me, I guess you can consider, I'm still, like I said, I'm 26. I guess I'm still in the struggle phase without, you know, for lack of a better term.
No, Joe, you're always going to be struggling, because here's why. If you give yourself a job, the problem with the job that you give yourself that you can do is that job gets done, and you have nothing. People who work their whole lives for retirement usually die right after they retire, or they deteriorate really fast. And yeah, they're older than they were. They're in their 60s, but that's not why. They've actually done studies on people with Alzheimer's and realized that a lot of the deterioration of their neurons within their brain is not actually due to old age and Alzheimer's. It's because they've stopped utilizing their thought processes. So when it all boils down to this, when you give yourself a job that you complete, the problem is there's nothing left for you to do. So an artist, to me, is, I don't want to get all cheesy and poetic, but I've always felt this way. An artist is like a blossoming flower. Once it stops blossoming, it dries up, withers, and dies. So, you know, as an artist, you never stop. You know, it's not in our blood. We can't allow ourselves to do that. I don't care how much money you make. You'll never be happy unless you're in a constant cycle of creating.
And when it comes to art, you can't really equate financial success with artistic success. You know what I mean? Because
I'll tell you, it's nice to be able to get paid and make a living and make a little bit of money off of what you love to do. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if what you love to do is the art of business, it might be the art of banking, it might be poetry, it might be politics, it might be literature, it might be sculpting, whatever it is. If you can make money off of doing what you love, that's awesome. And I think there's a lot to be learned having a day job and flipping burgers, mowing lawns, building walls, doing masonry, carpentry. All these things. The hard work does a lot for building character. So it's weird because I meet these trust fund artists, and trust fund artists are generally not very happy. And it's very interesting because they have the ability for financial success through a lot of the avenues they have open from being from well-connected families. So they start when they're very young, and they have works indoctrinated in permanent collections in museums, and they have an ability to be hooked up with a major label because their uncle's in the business or whatever. And a lot of times they do not end up to be happy people. The happiest artists I know are people who started with nothing, had no connections, and were somehow able to pull it off. And that accomplishment brings a feeling that you can't qualify or quantify.
If you happen to be successful doing what you want to do without selling out, I can't imagine you not being able to do your best work when you have more resources to put into it. Say more money, you know what I mean?
Sometimes it's a hindrance. Sometimes you can have too much. I've been in situations where the budget, as nice and big as it is, creates a bureaucracy. And actually, the end product doesn't have as much heart, and it doesn't have as much integrity as you would if you had a quarter of that budget and you needed to get it done all by yourself in your bedroom working in front of your computer or whatever. It's really interesting. Some of the best documentaries and films that I've ever seen were done on a modest budget or no budget by someone who wanted to get it done, had a story to tell, had something they wanted to show the world, and did it out of the drive in their heart.
But I don't think many people realize how satisfying that can be when you finally, after years, get something out of you that you never knew you could put together with such clarity and cohesiveness. There's nothing like being able to create something that is your masterpiece. But for an artist, masterpiece is probably only a masterpiece for so long until they have something else to say, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Again, it all boils down to you don't want to create a job for yourself that you can finish, because then you're done and the process is over. It's the process that defines you. We can all. It's interesting too because people always ask why I don't do more indie type films. Why I'm not, my first book, Dream Seller, which I wrote with Brandon Novak of the CKY crew, and from Diva LaBam and Jackass and our that whole MTV thing that we rode in through the Y2Ks. It's interesting because people always ask me why I don't write more, why I'm not constantly writing other books. And I have a lot of ideas for books, but they need to be done right. Nobody wants to pump out a bunch of crap for money. I don't remember what the original question was.
I don't even think I don't either. But see, you have a couple hats that you wear though. If you had to pick one, what would you say you are most at heart?
Well, you can't name a job that I haven't done. I've worked at I've scooped ice cream. I've been a teacher of film and communications. I've been an administrator at a prison. I've been a mason, a carpenter. I put up drywall. You literally can't name a job that I haven't done. That said, when you walk onto a movie set, normally it's structured where you have a producer, you have a director, you have an editor, you have the grips, the gaffers, etc. I've always liked to wear several hats because I found that it allowed me to have control. And guys who just make films for a living are happy doing one job because, quite frankly, it's easier. And you walk on the set, you get your job done, you walk away from it. You don't have to think about it. But that's never really been my cup of tea. I like to be the producer and the cinematographer, and because on a normal set, if you're the cinematographer and you want to make a change, you have to go and you have to ask the co-producer. Then the co-producer has to go consult the producer and the director. They have to talk about the schedule and the time and if it's going to work. Well, guess what? If you're the producer and the cinematographer and you've hired the whole crew, you know how long it's going to take for a camera to move. You know what in your head what the expenditures are. It cuts out all the bull, and you can just make the quick decisions that you know are going to work. And you can be 10 times as effective at your job if you can master the art of being able to perform several positions at once. Probably a lot. You can relate to this. I'm sure with your albums, you're recording, you're editing, you're mixing, you see the entire project from beginning to end. You're approving the artwork. It's very similar.
In your eyes, I don't know how many people that are listening are well versed in the world of filmmaking. But what to you is a cinematographer? To you, what would your definition be, maybe from an artistic standpoint? What is a cinematographer? And does it differ from say, being called a filmmaker? And what would be the difference between being a cinematographer and someone that just happens to, I know you partially answered this already, someone who just happens to shoot things? What makes a cinematographer?
Jerry Lewis, and it's funny because Jerry Lewis never gets the credit he deserves as a filmmaker. He wrote a great book. It's out of print. It's called The Total Filmmaker. And my mom gave me this as a present. I think I was 24 years old. And it completely changed the way I approach filmmaking. An auteur is a word for, it's another word for what Jerry Lewis would call a total filmmaker. It's someone who's controlled, lies over all the facets of a set. So, a cinematographer, he's just the head guy behind the camera making all the shots beautiful that everybody else wants. A filmmaker is able to see the big picture. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He knows what every person's on the set's function is. He knows what they're getting paid. He knows how they're working and how effective they are at their jobs. He knows what every light costs, where they should be moved, how to expose the film, or how to compose a shot, and how it's all going to edit together. That, to me, is a filmmaker. Someone who's able to put on all those different hats.
To me, that sounds,
and keep their eye on the big picture.
To me, that sounds like the equivalent of what a record producer would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot like that.
Yeah, a record producer it varies greatly from a film producer, but I guess the record producer can be considered the I don't want to say head cheese, but he's the guy that has his eye on everything, and he's watching the overall vision and execution of it, right?
Yep. So, a lot of being a filmmaker or a cinematographer, or in your case, a record producer, it's also not having a vision and sticking to it. It's about recognizing when pleasant surprises happen and working with them to make it better than the original vision. Or it's when a dilemma happens, such as maybe a camera stops functioning, or maybe maybe one of your mics gives out. Maybe your computer crashes in the middle of a song, and you gotta quick fix it fast while the one guy who's booked to be a session player for only 2 hours walks the hell out. It's about being able to come up with quick solutions for any dilemmas that can arise. That's a big part of it. So many artists are so fixated on their original vision that they forget that the reason they're an artist is to embrace what's in this world and make it better. So, sometimes a lot of these discoveries or even problems can lead to a better project with more heart.
You know how many happy accidents happen while you're trying to record a guitar track, and you finally realize, oh, wait a second, that sounds better than the original. Let me go on a tangent real quick. Let me see if that works. Turns out it might change the whole structure of the song for the better. You have to kind of recognize the balance between your vision and the fact that nothing can be 100% your vision in the end. In some aspect, something's going to be a little different or a little off than how you pictured in your mind. I mean, that's just the struggle of being an artist, right? What year would you consider your start in filmmaking? How old were you when you realized you had an interest in it and wanted to?
I was always very critical of watching movies. I didn't. My parents were very busy. They worked very, very hard to support the family. We didn't have any money. The house always needed to get fixed up, and my parents were great providers. But in order to do that, they would work extremely hard. In addition to doing charities and giving up their time to make the world a better place in a lot of other ways. So I spent a great deal of my childhood all alone. And what's the best companion for a kid? Who doesn't have any people around? Is a television, and it's a negative influence, I think, the television. I think I may have spent too much time watching it. Even then, I knew that I should be a more well-rounded person. But, when your parents don't get home till 7 at night, you're not allowed out of the house when you're a kid. You're not allowed to run free because there's, in the world before cell phones, anything could have happened to me. I could have got kidnapped or whatever. So anyway, I spent a lot of time all alone when I was a kid watching television. So when I got a little older, my friends always said, man, you should be one of those movie critics like Siskel and Ebert. You can just talk about movies and how they could have been better and why you didn't like them. And I had a way of expressing movies that a lot of the other kids didn't share in my early teenage years. But I think it was when I was in 7th grade, and I was in one of my classes, and our teachers had us write on a piece of paper what we wanted to be when we grew up. I never really thought about it. I mean, I did. I didn't know what I wanted to be. And it occurred to me, and the kid sitting next to me wrote that he wanted to be a filmmaker. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do that? Like, it just never occurred to me I could be a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. As weird as it is, I was like, okay, I'm going to write that down too. That sounds good. And it's always something that I've wanted to do.
How old were you?
That's when I knew that I'd be a filmmaker. When I was in 7th grade, and I saw the kid. And you know what? If that kid sitting next to me didn't write that down on that piece of paper, I might be cooped up in an office somewhere wearing a tie with a horrible haircut.
When you were in school, see, I was lucky. I had a TV video production class in high school, so we had the old school equipment. We had switchers. We had the big racks of stuff. We were putting on, productions. We were learning the ropes, and I was always very interested in that. Did you guys have that at all? Like back in high school?
No. That stuff didn't exist. I mean, it did, but only big television studios had any of that stuff. That was the thing about a lot of younger kids ask me, should I go to college? Where should I go to college? What should I study? And, back in the day, 20 years ago, when I was in school, there was no digital nonlinear editing. There was no, you couldn't film something and put it in your computer and edit it seamlessly. There was none of that stuff. So the university was a place where you could get two things. That's where the books were. That's where libraries were. That's where the knowledge was. That's where they had a teacher who you could learn from, and you learn skill and theory. You had to do that. They also had the equipment. They had the filmmaking equipment, which was very, very expensive and impossible to get any kind of production value or quality in the systems that were in place to the home, which was taking 2 VCRs and editing deck to deck. And it was horrible. I mean, the quality degenerated so much in between copies. So, that's, that was my big decision to go to college, Yeah. But also, I've always placed a high value on an education.
Sure.
And again, you can do that yourself at home. You can educate yourself by using the internet. But it's interesting. There's a paradox that goes with education, and it is, how do you recognize if something is worth learning if you don't know it's valuable to learn to begin with? So it's always good to have these mentors in place, people that you learn facts from, but also how to approach and process that knowledge in becoming a more effective thinker, more critical thinker. You know, that's one of the advantages of having a professor, or not even a professor, a mentor. You know,
right.
Like, for example, I know someone who he became a millionaire by having his own contracting business, because his boss, when he was laying brick, was a great businessman, and he became his hero, his father figure. So, all right, I'm getting off topic.
No, I love how I was like, oh, let's do some CKY questions. We just went right back to film. All right.
I know, you could probably make 2 episodes out of this. One where we're just talking about art, and another one where we're talking about CKY.
Well, you heard it here first. All right, we'll do that. So, see, you know what's funny? I guess that's the good thing about technology, because when we were in high school in TV video production, we were editing on, like, Avid 4 machines with, like, the old dongles and everything. I mean, we were lucky to have that, but now, I mean, that sadly, they don't even have that class anymore. And the thing is, I'm not sure it would even be necessary, because anybody with a Macintosh can do that now. You know what I mean?
And you can edit on your phone right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I can pick up my phone, film something, edit it in the phone, and have a movie done on my phone right now.
Which is great, and I love that. I take full advantage of that. But where would you draw the line between, I mean, how do you think true talent can still shine through all of this technology? I mean, maybe, well, no.
That's a really good question. I mean, being in the music business, you can appreciate this. Back in the day, when you were recording, you only had so much tape. Whether you were shooting on magnetic tape or 1 inch or 2 inch or whatever it was the same. When I was coming up with cinematography, film was so expensive to shoot on. And 20 years ago, essentially, to buy the film, to process the film, and to put it on a format where you could edit it, such as video, basically you're looking at about $100 for every minute that runs through that camera. Now, 20 years ago, here we are in 2014. That's like $200 a minute. With inflation. Yeah, so that's not what you're producing. That's what you're running through the camera. That's your raw footage. So one thing that taught me was how to be very efficient. So I think that a problem with a lot of today's filmmakers is, look, if you're shooting off footage, you're going to get something that's, if you take a video camera, a high-def video camera, you press on and automatic, and you shoot enough, you're going to get something in the can that's decent enough where you can call it like a music video or a short film or even a feature, But a lot of these guys, they shoot so much because they don't have a discipline. And they just get overwhelmed with all this footage, and a lot of these films take so long to get done because there's no discipline in the shooting. Also, some of the reality shows that I work on, I get, these days I produce and shoot a lot of reality shows, and some of these shows you're told, keep shooting, keep those cameras rolling. And, it's a dilemma because you don't want to give the editors too much because they get overwhelmed. They won't put in your best shots. Mm-hmm. They won't be able to find them. There's not time enough for an editor to go through 12 hours of footage from 2 cameras to do a 10-minute segment. So then your most beautiful shots get lost in the mix. And, they end up being mediocre. So again, the discipline of knowing what to shoot and what not to shoot,
it's all in the discipline.
Is a very, very valuable skill. Yeah. And, in this digital age where anyone can just keep a camera rolling and at no cost to them, shooting too much can be a big hindrance. Cesar Augustus, ladies and gentlemen, he's ruining the interview.
Hey, what up?
Cesar Augustus Films. Like, he's taking out the trash, he's clanking bottles. one thing about artists and their relationships is, you know, I mean, I've been in a lot of relationships that won't work, but that haven't worked because I love to work so much. And, you know, I love it more than hanging out with my friends. I love it more than going to bars, and I love it more than meeting free girls. It's crazy. So, you know, I remember one relationship that was, you know, I was dating this girl for about 2 years, and I get a call from Jimmy Pop Ali of the Bloodhound Gang, and he's like, "Hey, Frankie boy, you know, I have this music video I want you to direct. It was Screwing You on the Beach at Night by the Bloodhound Gang." So Jimmy Pop Ali. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do it. But now they were going to Europe, so I had like 2 days to get this whole thing together and shoot it. Well, the rain date of the music video was my girlfriend's birthday. So her 30th birthday. So I told her this going into it.
Oh no.
She hit the roof. Said, "You tell them you're not gonna." I'm like, "Look, baby, it's the rain date. I don't know if it's going to rain, but if it does, I got to shoot then. I'll make it up to you. Believe me, you'll have fun." And she was so mad. I'm like, "Look, you don't tell if the Bloodhound Gang wants you to direct a music video, you don't tell them that they got to wait on you, especially if they're going to Europe. Then it doesn't get done." You know, same when I was working in advertising, I had another girlfriend. She was in Harvard graduate school, very well educated, beautiful girl, awesome person, but you know, I was working in advertising, and when they told me to do something, I had to get it done, no matter what. And she was always mad that we couldn't plan vacations. And, you know, I'd be like, "Look," she's like, "Well, what's the big deal? You plan this vacation, and then you go on your vacation." I was like, "Yeah, what happens if my boss has a big job for me to do?" She says, "You tell me you're on vacation." And I'm like, "Great." And I could also tell them I'm collecting fucking unemployment, baby.
Yep.
I can't do it. I'm paying a lot of, you know, I was in my early 20s. I was paying a lot of dues, and the money was great, you know. So yeah, so that ended in misery as well. But you know what? I think I'm all the better for it. You know, I've watched my friends who compromise their relationships with their art, and at the end, they're bummed out that they never kept up with their art. Mm-hmm. They've let it die and wither, and they've seen their dreams get crashed because, you know, it's more important than them to make one person happy than to try and make their fans of their work or potential fans or the world a better place.
That's so true, and it's so hard to explain to somebody that's not creatively inclined. You know what I mean? Or someone who may not have a such a strong sort of discontentment with everything that they feel like they have to put this masterpiece, whatever it may be, out into the world. It's so hard to explain that to somebody that might not share that same sort of vision. It's very hard. Especially
if you have a gallery opening and that no one comes to.
Yeah.
Or if you have, I mean, you know, you feel horrible.
Or you have an album that nobody downloads.
That's one of the other things is about being an artist is, you know, you might put everything you want into, or, you know, you might put everything you can, all your resources, all your heart into an album. And you know, at the end of the day, fans pirate it. You don't know how many people are enjoying it or not. Or you know, you might be a painter and have all your best paintings that you ever, you know, that you feel you created at a gallery opening. 3 people might come by the end of the night. You might write a book nobody likes.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are the cons of, you know, putting your art before you do a lifestyle.
Do you believe that if someone is an artist and they aren't able to sustain maybe financially what they're doing, do you feel like art for some is a life mission? I mean, I can't imagine not being involved in art or music for a career. I mean, I'm certainly not making a livable wage doing it now, but I can't imagine the day where I have to decide to stop, you know.
To me, the battle is glorious. I love a good challenge. And, you know, there have been times when I wanted to give up, though. You know, and I have been blessed. I mean, there's a lot of people who work as hard as me, and some even harder, and the fruits of their art the reception is a void. You know, nobody gets it. No one understands them. And, you know, I've seen friends of mine they come to a point where they admit, I gave up. You know, to give you an example, you know, for, 12 years of my life or so, I mean, all I did was CKY stuff. You know, whether it was CKY or MTV's Viva La Bam. I produced another show called Unholy Union, which chronicled Bam's marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, I wrote my book with Novak, Dream Seller. You know, I filmed a couple of the Jackass movies. We did the CKY videos. All this stuff's coming out. And then that cycle comes to an end, like all things do. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't ride one tailwind forever. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? I've never done anything else. I don't know how to exist in normal society. Like, if I fall asleep, in a van and I wake up and no one's fucked with me, no one's cut my hair or drawn on me or peed on me, I would be like, you people are lame. Like, I literally had no idea how to fit into normal society, and I didn't know what to do. Luckily, I got a call one day from a guy who was a big fan of my work, and he says, hey, I have a great job for you. You fit right in. It's National Geographic. I said, let's go. And, luckily I was able to reinvent myself. A lot of people not only can they not adapt to change, but, you know, sometimes they don't have, or another problem that a lot of artists have is they make brilliant art, but they do not want to do the marketing. They do not want to, they don't have what it takes, that drive to get it out there and to create a fan base, you know. And some, they do have that drive, but it just never happens. So I've known a lot of artists through the years who have come to the decision. They sit themselves down. They were like, should I continue this fight, this struggle, or do I give up and start making the most of what I can out of my day job and trying to enjoy the time I have left unencumbered by this burden of my art?
That's so hard.
It's a very sad decision and conclusion to have to come to and make.
Yeah, I hear you. Damn. What was your first paid gig?
I was older when so I graduated from college. I was a Generation X guy. You know, we're talking early 90s. You know, I get out of college, educated, bachelor's degree, you know, did really well in college. My grades were good. Mm-hmm. I had a reel, couldn't get a job. You know, I didn't know anybody in the business. You see, things were a lot different back then. There was no internet. Right. You know, there was no way you could just log on to a computer and look for jobs or see where they were. In order to get a job, you had to have a newspaper. And you had to, if they had a fax number, you would fax them your resume. You don't know if anyone got it. You don't know who it's going to or who's looking at it. And if you wanted a job in New York, you'd have to wait 2 days for a local library to get the New York paper. You look through them, you mail them your resume, and, you know, by that time, a week has gone by, and they've hired somebody else. So I couldn't even get a job videotaping weddings. So I came to the conclusion, I was like, look, I got to do something. So I was like, I need a job that is invaluable in the set that no one else can do. And I need a skill set that few other people have. So, you know, I was always a keen video shooter, and I was like, I'm learning cinematography. I'm going to do this. I studied for 2 years and worked at a photo shop, like a photomat, developing people's negatives for, like, I think I was making like $5.50 an hour.
Wow, I did that too.
For 2 years I did that, and at night I would study film. I would look at people's negatives all day. Finally, I got a job transferring video, old high 8 and Super 8 movies, transferring film, old high 8 and Super 8 negative and positive movies to video. And it was funny too because I had this job, and like 50% of the clients were like, hey, man, I found all these Super 8 reels in my attic.
Oh, no.
I don't know what they are. My family's old home movies, and you put them in, and it's like their grandmother and grandfather having sex back in the, like, 1950s. You know? And so I did that for a season, and then I got a job at NFL Films where I was handling real motion picture film right off of, you know, right in from the games. And that was exciting to me because I could actually talk to people who shot and see the whole process. So I saved all my money, bought a camera for $2,000, shot a teeny little show reel for, you know, a little reel, made, you know, processed it for free there at the lab, made friends with people in the telecine department who transferred the video, got a friend to help me edit it up, and immediately I got a job in big advertising. And I immediately went from living in a shitty little crack house apartment for $158 a month to traveling the world filming Olympic stars. And I'd never been anywhere. It was crazy to me. I mean, I was going to Japan, New Zealand, France, you know, you name it, I've been there.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's how I got my start. And it, you know, I paid a lot of dues to get there. You know, people with poor self-esteem, that means they're never happy anyway. So, you know, a lot of it is telling yourself you're good enough to do this, and you know what, these other guys can do it. You know, I would work as a production assistant on these sets, and I would see these guys, and I'd be like, God damn, this guy has no talent. He really doesn't know what the hell he's doing. How does he get this job making all this money? I was like, I can do this. I know I can. You know, a lot of it's very scary, too. I mean, I don't get nervous anymore. It's been a long time since I have, but I used to get very nervous before a shoot, and, you know, just making sure all my T's were crossed and my I's were dotted, etc. It was, you know, it was very intimidating at the beginning.
And that's only because you're trying to be a good craftsman. You know what I mean? You're trying to be the best that you can be. I get nervous doing everything.
Exactly.
I mean, but
exactly, yeah. Training yourself to working under pressure and working hard is, you know, that's 50% of the battle.
Yep.
I mean, you know, really, it really is.